Welcome to 15 Minutes with. It's a Merrill Moss Media production. We are here today with Al Gobo, who is author of Getting to the Green. Al is a certified financial planner and partner at U.S. Financial Services, LLC. He served on the board of directors for the Northern New Jersey chapter of the International Association for Financial Planning as president and chairman. He's also served as adjunct faculty coordinator, academic advisor for Fairleigh Dickinson University's financial planning program. And in addition to that, he served on the board of directors for Fairleigh Dickinson's University Financial Services Institute. And Al has also made appearances on CNBC, NBC, ABC, MSNBC, Fox News, Fox Business News, Bloomberg, and CNN. Welcome, Al. I'm so happy to have you today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You and I did an interview for BookTrib about a month and a half ago or so in October, and we talked about your book. And today we're actually going to do something a little bit different because one of the things that we talked about in our interview was how people really kind of almost fear financial planning, and to kind of help people get over that hump, I wanted to talk with you about some things that I was thinking about planning for 2018 and getting your advice so people can see how easy this really is and that there's nothing to fear. So my first concern is about healthcare expenses. It was something that my family did not, we didn't plan for it. We have insurance, health insurance, and we're all very supportive of each other, but myself and each one of my sisters had financial issues that just came out of nowhere. And that really, put some stress on us financially. And so there are things that we started talking about in planning long-term because we're all in our 40s now. And, long-term healthcare issues. People don't always think about planning for those. So what are some of the ways that you could advise myself, people like me, who have some health issues that they are going to need to spend extra money for?
Sure. Well, first let's talk about, when doing any type of financial planning, you look at the financial plan from different perspectives. Number one, if everything goes well, what will it look like? If everything doesn't go so well, what happens if I die prematurely or become disabled or sick? In this case, we're talking about healthcare insurance. When we do a financial plan, we're looking, what if something happens where you have to have extended medical expenses? And it's very simply put, most people don't think about that in doing a financial plan. And that's why having one done is important, because we'll take a look at what your expenses are today, what they're projected to be if you remain healthy, or, God forbid, you become ill.
Right.
And once we take a look at the second part, what if you become ill? Are you protected? Does your current plan offer protection from now until eternity? Okay. And in most people's cases, the answer is no, because most people work for an employer that gives them health insurance.
Right.
And they think, well, everything's great because I have health insurance today. When you're in your 40s, for example, everything is fine. You're relatively healthy. You have health insurance. But if you're doing a plan that's going to extend into your retirement years, you should consider, what if, A, something does happen to me? Where will the money come from? And B, what type of insurance will I have at that time? Does my employer continue my benefits throughout retirement? And unless you're a civil employee, unless you're a teacher or a fireman or whatever, more than likely private industry does not continue, health insurance forever.
Correct.
Okay, so you have to go to a different type of plan, either Medicare, or you have to get your own coverage, individual coverage. So we have to, when we're doing cash flow analytics, we have to budget that into what we need to save for.
Well, here's an example. My youngest sister, she does have private insurance or insurance through her employer, but when she was on dialysis a few years ago, she also had to buy into Medicare just on the chance that if she lost her job and lost her insurance, she had to buy into she had to have it because it is a life-saving measure. Sure. How does someone plan for that? If you have what's the best way to kind of budget that and find the best plan?
Well, number one, I think you take a look at what you're paying today.
Okay.
In most situations, or in many situations, health insurance is not entirely paid for by the employer. There's some type of contribution by the employee.
Right.
So that's factored into your budget or your cash flow scenario. All right. I think what you need to do is also say, well, what if something happened to me and I no longer have this job? Okay. Because if I go on disability, my job is finished. Now I have to go to Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How much will Medicare cost me? And it's very easy to go online to find out information. Most people do it when they turn 65. All right. But it probably makes sense to do it before then in case you're going to need it before that time. Go online and look at the scenarios, look at the different scenarios that are available to you under the Medicare plan. Okay. You know that they have all different Part A, Part B, Part D, et cetera. And it's good to get familiar with what those parts are, what they cover. One covers hospital only, one covers doctors, one covers prescription drugs, et cetera. And based on income levels, there are different costs. So Part A, for example, everyone gets. We like to say you get it for free, but the reality is we paid into that lifetime. So you get Part A. If you want Part B, which is to cover doctors, there's a cost.
Right.
And that cost could range from $130, $140 a month up to $400 or $500 a month based on your income level. In addition to that, there's something called supplemental, where if Part A and Part B are not enough and you want supplemental coverage, that supplemental coverage is available through private insurers that work through the Medicare plan. So it will give you a number of different private insurers, and all of the names are in there. You could contact, AARP or somebody like that, and they'll give you a list of what that supplemental insurance would cost. Okay, so now you're prepared for the what if scenario. What if I'm going to need this down the road? What is it going to cost? And how much do I have to put aside to pay for this?
Right. Now, you gave that scenario as advice for someone who's probably around my age. Now, what about someone who's retired over 65 and then has the factored cost of caring for an elderly parent? Because that's another health expense that people don't take into account when they're doing their long-term planning.
Exactly. Well, we call that, the sandwich generation, the sandwich between helping our kids, and kids today are no longer, only 12 or 13. Kids are in their 20s, and sometimes in their 30s, but we're still helping support our children. And then some of us have parents that need our support. So for those of us that are sandwiched in there, we're helping parents. This thing called long-term care, that really came into scene, probably in the last 20 years, where people really became aware of what happens if you live an extended life, but you're not capable of taking care of yourself. There was a time not too long ago, 50, 60 years ago, where the life expectancy was 65, 70, and most people didn't live past that.
Right.
Today, people are living to 100 years old, or maybe in their 90s, but it may not be the best quality of life at the latter part. It may not be where they can take care of themselves. They may need supplemental care.
Right.
Well, where's that care going to come from? Sometimes it comes from the children themselves, but when the children are unable to be there 24/7, they may need some kind of additional care, which is where, Medicaid comes in, but Medicaid only covers one if they absolutely have almost no money.
Right.
If you have a little bit of money, you need some kind of supplemental coverage, and that might come in the form of a long-term care policy.
Okay, so we talked about middle age, we've talked about retirement, we've talked about elderly concerns financially. Now we're going to flip it back and talk about young people, because the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was I have a daughter who is in 10th grade. She'll be finishing up her sophomore year in June, but we've been saving all along for her college tuition, but I want to step that up in the next 2 years. And we started a teen checking account so she can learn how to be responsible. She's had it for about 1.5 years now. But she also wants to start increasing her savings so that she can contribute to her education. And she's actually looking at investing. So what are some kinds of things that you can advise us on? For example, we've cut out some unnecessary things like scaled back our cable services in terms of, just making small cuts here and there and putting that money into her college fund. What are some other saving tips that you can give us?
Okay, first let me start by saying I think we do a terrible job in this country of educating children about money. Mm-hmm. Very few schools offer courses, and I'm talking about even in elementary, middle school, high school, to teach kids the basics about money. And as parents, that's our job, as they grow up. And if you come from a generation where you didn't have much, we tend to spoil our kids by giving them maybe too much sometimes without teaching them the value of money. So number one, teach your children the value of money. I heard something recently where somebody was giving their child an allowance. And an allowance used to be, here's X amount of dollars, you can do whatever you want. But the stipulation with this allowance was they had to save, they had to spend, and they had to give to charity. So the spending part was easy. Mm-hmm. Every kid knows how to spend money. But they have to save X amount, and they had to give something back, charity. So it teaches children about every time you make money, to number one, pay yourself first, meaning save something for the future. Number two, you have to spend and enjoy life, live life today, but be comfortable about tomorrow. And number three, we have an obligation to do things for other people that are less fortunate than us. So in the case of your child that now is starting to understand the concept of cash flow, which is a fancy word for budgeting, right? We know how much comes in and how do we determine how much must go out. So what are our mandatory bills? Mm-hmm. We have insurance, we have car expense, etc. And then we have discretionary spending. Do we need cable? Okay. Do we need going out to dinner? Do we have to buy ice cream every day or whatever it is? How silly it may sound. There was an example once of the person buying that $5 cup of Starbucks every day, which doesn't seem like a lot of money to many people. Right. But at the end of the year, that's almost $2,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you say to somebody, can you save $5? Sure. I said, can you give me $2,000? Well, no, not really. I don't have it. Well, if you save $5 a day, you'd almost have it.
Right.
So the reality is we need to teach our children about saving. Okay. When it comes to college, in the 10th grade, time is running out. She only has 2 years to go. Many parents today start saving when the child is born.
Right.
Okay, putting a savings account together. I came from a generation where my father told me when I was a senior in high school that I could go to any college I could afford, right? Which is, okay, back then, colleges certainly didn't cost what they cost today, but we worked and we put ourselves through school. Today, colleges are so expensive. Kids that don't have the wherewithal are borrowing money at exorbitant rates, and they find themselves graduating with these heavy, heavy loans. Well, there has to be a way from day one until the time they go to school where one is saving for college. And they have all these neat things like a 529 plan that allows you to save tax-free and other instruments where you can tell friends, relatives, et cetera, that we have a plan set up that instead of buying them, whatever, put money into their college plan. And over the course of time, you'd be surprised how much could be saved.
Right.
Now, in the 10th grade, your options are getting a little narrower, where whatever you have saved, that's number two, what can you apply for? What loans, grants, scholarships, et cetera, are available? And there are many, many that people don't know about that they don't take advantage of. So one should go out and do the research and see what exactly is available for my child, or the child should do it themselves, actually. Right. What's available for them to get some assistance from whatever's out there in the form of scholarships, grants, et cetera. And then, work isn't the most terrible thing in the world. I knew, when I worked and I bought a bicycle, I used to clean the spokes every day because I bought that thing and it never saw the rain, But when you buy a kid a bicycle and he has no skin in the game,
right.
He's out in the snow and he leaves it on the ground. So it's important to teach kids about skin in the game. Working a little bit, having a part-time job, and that money going to tuition is, I think, a wonderful thing.
Yeah. I worked 3 part-time jobs in college. So I drove the campus shuttle. I was an RA, And then I also worked part-time in one of the academic offices. So that was how I earned my money for books and part of my room and board. And I don't want my daughter to have to do that. So we've actually taken this kind of four-prong approach where we started saving when like before she was even born. When I found out I was pregnant, I started saving for that. And anytime people wanted to give her gifts, it was always like, give her stocks, give her CDs, we'll put that stuff away. And then we started this account for her to save. And then we really pushed the academic part and making sure that she's enrolled in AP classes and has the class work and course load that will help her to be more competitive for scholarships and start applying early. So now we're at the point where we know basically how the general expenses will be paid. We know that she can go wherever she can either get in and excel at, but we also want her to be able to feel like she has ownership in it. So now that we have cut back on some things, what ways can we maximize her savings? For example, her father puts in about $40 into her checking account every 2 weeks, so she knows how to budget it. I put $100 a month, and so she budgets her money that way. She's also very good at not spending. She's one of the few teens I've seen that does not spend unless she absolutely has to, because she likes to keep track of her money. But she wants to look at investing. So what kind of advice would you give to someone who's 15 and has money in an account and wants to do some early investing?
We're assuming now that she has a handle. She knows what's coming in, right? Mm-hmm. She has $180 coming in every month, right? Mm-hmm. And assuming that there's money left over after her expenses. So now she budgets. She knows she has skin in the game from the sense that she knows she can't spend more than $180.
Right.
Whatever she has left over called discretionary income, okay, she could start to look for some investment opportunities for the future.
Okay.
And those investment opportunities run the gamut of stocks, bonds, CDs, whatever. And basically, in the beginning, she needs to get an education, all right? Because I don't believe that anyone should invest money without knowing what they're doing. And they don't have to become a pro. They don't have to become an expert in any area, but they should have the basic understanding of what investment is. Okay, so if they're investing in the market, they should have an understanding of what the market is and what the risk of the market is. Mm-hmm. I mean, people get the idea that, well, I see this thing that costs $1 and somebody told me it's going to be worth $10 in 2 weeks. Let me invest in it. Well, that often doesn't pan out. So you want to start your investing program with a good base, a good fundamental, and perhaps you should be looking at some type of mutual funds or ETFs, something to give her a good foundation that she can put in money periodically. So if I were to put in, let's say, $50 a month, okay, over the course of 1 year, I'd be putting in $600. Mm-hmm. However, I wouldn't be putting it in at one time. The market's at an all-time high right now. We don't know where it's going. We suspect there's a lot of room for it to go higher, but there could be a pullback. So why would somebody want to take all of their money and put it all in at one time when they can do what they call dollar cost averaging and put it in a little at a time over a long period of time? So you're going to catch some of the highs and some of the lows of the market, but do it religiously. And over a long period of time, in her case, a long period could be defined as 5, 7, 10 years, you'll see how much she'll have at that time by just doing this one simple thing.
Oh, excellent. Okay. And the final thing I did want to talk to you about is I have been thinking about planning a vacation for a year from now for my daughter and myself. We haven't decided yet. She wants to actually visit the Motown Museum in Detroit. Wow. So, yes, she's a huge Michael Jackson fan. So I want to take her next Christmas to go see the Motown Museum in Detroit. And so in order to do that, I have cut out some of our eating out expenses. What's the best way to save that? Or should I look at investing those extra dollars?
Well, first of all, I think you need, just like in any other situation, you need to define your goal. So have you defined how much is this vacation going to cost? Where do I want to stay? How long do I want to go for? What do I want to do when I get there? And put a dollar figure to it. So
Okay.
let's do that. And let's say that number comes up to be, what do you think?
It's total for a week and all of the travel and taxi. I got it down to about $28.62.
$2,862.
Yes. And
Okay.
that does not include airfare, which is going to be a gift from her nana.
Okay. So 2862. It looks like you've done some homework because it's a precise number.
Yeah.
So I think what you want to do is how much do you need to save? Break that down, into 12 months. So roughly divided by 12, that comes out to be, I don't have a calculator, but
Right.
to 28, $200, $250 a month, okay, that you need to save.
Okay.
All right. As far as investing it, don't take big chances because 1 year is a short period of time.
Right.
And the market could go up or down, and I don't want to see you have zero, or not zero, but 20 or 30% less at the end of this year because the market took a turn. So you want to invest in something relatively safe when you have a short window. So as long as you can budget that 200 and change a month, put it somewhere ultra safe. Buy a 6-month CD, buy a 3-month CD, buy something where but it's definitely going to be there a year from now.
Okay.
Something else, anything more aggressive than that or taking more risk than that, sure, you might be able to make a few more bucks on it, but you also may lose some money.
Right.
And so you ruin your vacation because you don't have the 2862. You only have 26 or 24 because the market took a turn.
Right.
So something very safe.
So like
right?
a bank account, your bank might have like a vacation account.
Well, the vacation, just take a look at, I wouldn't look at anything called a vacation. Just take, a CD,
Okay.
and something like that, and just get the money into the account. Even if, let's say you buy a 3-month CD and you put money in the money market for 3 months, then at the end of 3 months, you buy the CD. Okay. You're not going to make a lot of money on this investment, but you're not going to lose money.
Right.
And what you're going to have at the end of 12 months is enough money so that you and your daughter can enjoy the vacation of a lifetime and do something that's very, very important. And that's create a memory that both of you are going to have for a lifetime. And forget about how much money you can earn between now and then. Think about the memory you're going to create of both of you moonwalking in Detroit.
I know. So thank you so much. You've helped. We've covered healthcare. We've covered college savings. We've covered vacation. All the kinds of things that people will be talking about and planning for in 2018, which was perfect because we're at the end of the year now, and people need to start thinking about those things and preparing to do them. Your book is called Getting to the Green, and you take an approach of financial planning through the eyes of someone who is an avid golfer. I will definitely make sure that people see your book and that they also see the interview that you and I did talking about the book. And I do want to make people aware that all profits from the sale of this book are donated to charity. It's available now on Amazon. It's Getting to the Green. And thank you again, Al, for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Okay, so we're good. We made it just at the 27 and 56 second mark of our 30 minutes. And I think it was very worthwhile. I think that everyone's going to get great information, and I appreciate it. I'm glad to hear that we've been doing some things right in terms of the thinking and planning.
Absolutely. And you know what? I wanted to mention to you, you have jobs. But kids were I don't to do what we make a mistake sometimes. Let them do a little bit of what we had to do.
Yeah.
Because those 3 jobs made you a better person.
Oh, yeah.
They taught you about discipline. They taught you about getting up in the morning and going to work. And they taught you the value of a dollar. So it's not a bad idea. Maybe she doesn't need 3 jobs.
Right.
Because she's smart. She's going to get some scholarships, etc. But one job or a small part-time job just to show her what it takes to earn a dollar. So that she gets surprised after graduation.
Yeah. And see, I worked 3 because my parents were in the process of a divorce at the time that I went to college. So I had to, they both had legal expenses that they were not expecting when I was younger. So I did that, but
we did things out of necessity.
Yeah.
Okay. And we think by not making them do it, we're really helping them, and we are to a large extent.
Mm-hmm.
But we're also hurting them a little bit by not teaching them that what work is,
Right.
and that it's good to have a job. It's good to, do you remember the first paycheck you ever got?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I was in, 11th grade?
I was younger. I was in 8th grade, and I worked in this little delicatessen, and the fellow gave me a check for like $12.06. And I was going, give me a check. I don't even have a bank. I want the cash.
Yeah.
But now I know why he did it. He wanted to give me my first paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And I still remember it a couple of years later. I mean, more than a couple of years, but I remember my first paycheck and how it made me feel.
Right.
That go to work, make money. And back then I would just give it to my mom and she would put it in an account.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even know when I needed money, she gave me $2. But I made my own money from that day on. My parents.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I'm considering with her for the summer. If she doesn't want to do any kind of summer program, then to get a summer job, or she's going to spend her summer volunteering.
Yep.
So every summer she has to do something. This past summer it was volunteering.
Right. Where's she thinking about going to school?
She's looking at Yale, Howard, Stanford. That's it so far. And where else was it that she was? Temple.
Oh, great schools.
Yeah.
Great schools. All right. Those AP classes pay off.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have my goddaughter she's graduated now about 5 years ago. She was captain of the Duke lacrosse team.
Mm-hmm.
Duke on a pretty good scholarship. My niece is finishing her senior year at UPenn,
Mm-hmm.
good scholarship. 2 great schools that, because of brains, they got good scholarships and they got a good heads up, into the world of education. Not everybody's that fortunate, but academics are critical. Sports can certainly help.
Mm-hmm.
And so you mentioned, boy, if she can get to one of those schools and have some financial aid through a scholarship, grant, or whatever, that would be super.